Hi, everyone. This is Tammy with Next Level Me, and welcome to another segment of our Spotlight interview series. Today, I'm with Marcio Moerbeck, and he is the lead consultant for Growth Scout, where he helps high growth, small and mid sized businesses as their chief marketing officer. Prior to this, he spent 20 years in various marketing leadership roles with very large software as a service and high tech companies. In those roles, he built teams, drove pipeline, and executed award-winning marketing strategies to scale revenue. Marcio's story is not necessarily one of a total career pivot. Instead, it's a story of taking his past experience, his strengths, and his talents and refocusing them in a more fulfilling way, such as helping small and mid-sized businesses drive go-to-market strategies that allow them to grow exponentially and profitably at the same time. Welcome, Marcio. I'm so glad to have you today.
Well, thank you so much for the invite, Tammy. I think you said something that makes so much sense and it resonates so much with me, which is really that this kind of new arc that I've embarked on is really not a massive pivot. I think the change that I've made my job more meaningful, and it also made my job more impactful because I am working directly with businesses that are showing signs of success and are accelerating fast, but they need structure, they need guidance, and they need someone who is going to hold their hand through investments that are very important for them moving forward, right? So that resonates so much with me. So thank you for the intro. It's very kind.
You're welcome. It's a very compelling story. So let's dig into that a little bit deeper. What actually sparked that desire to change the focus area from what you were doing and kind of repoint your career in that direction?
So there were a couple of events that drove that. I think I as I became more senior, as I took on more senior roles at these larger companies, right? I have kind of a brand name resume. I worked with Microsoft, I worked with VMware, I worked with Citrix, Warner Brothers, Samsung. So I had the opportunity to work with companies that were very large, well known in their space. And as I became more and more senior with these companies, what I started to find is that you as a senior leader, you are trying to steer the Titanic, right? What your team is driving and what you are deciding on, the strategies that you are deciding on, it becomes harder and harder and harder to steer a much, much bigger ship. I started looking for roles at smaller companies, and one of the things that I noticed was that when I woke up and I had an idea and I executed the idea, the impact was immediate. So you can have much more short-term visibility on the impact of the work that you do. That's more rewarding for me. That's more rewarding for the team I manage. And that really made me think of, hey, how can I get really extreme about this approach? And not only going to smaller companies, but going to the smallest companies, right? Small and mid-sized businesses that have maybe one marketing employee or two marketing employees. That's the ultimate challenge to come in, look at what these companies are needing, what they're looking for, act on their goals, build the right marketing strategies to support that, make the right investments, and see uh, the outcomes bear fruit very, very quickly. So I think the driver was really one was impact, how fast to get to impact. And honestly speaking, the second one was a bit of frustration with leadership. Marketing is a misunderstood discipline, right? I think if you ask anybody in a company if they can dabble in marketing, they will say they do. And the reality is, marketing today is almost an exact science that requires a lot of knowledge, a lot of testing, a lot of rigor to get right. And when leadership gets deeply involved, on decisions that they don't truly understand, and you spend probably, in my case, I was spending probably half of my time just to find these decisions. I started getting more and more frustrated that our team was investing most of their time building reports and talking about how we're going to do things instead of actually doing the thing that we needed to do. So having worked for a few companies at the tail end of these past 25 years, where uh, working with leadership became more of a challenge in regards to, hey, let's just go get stuff done and be agile and be fast at what we do. Uh, I just said, why am I going to spend that much time frustrating myself working with leadership? Let's focus on companies that are craving the support. Let's focus on companies that are the right fit for the type of service I provide. And it's been a tremendously rewarding experience because it moves faster. The leadership is aligned. They do understand that things don't happen overnight, and we just work through these challenges together, right? It's a collaborative process. But those two things were really the trigger that made me realize that, hey, there might be an opportunity to do something else and to take a different approach to my career and how I help people.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And it has to be, like you said, so much more rewarding. I mean, those people that you're working with now, I'm sure are tremendously more appreciative of the work that you're doing, as opposed to the leaders that you were working with before. Having worked for some large companies myself, I think that's probably an accurate statement. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
So I can tell you the perfect example of that. So I'm a marketing professor. I call it my fun job. And I teach every 3 months or so a program in South Florida called the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses Program. And that's sponsored obviously by Goldman Sachs. And they recruit local small and mid-sized businesses to go through a 12-week program entirely free of charge, where they basically learn how to run their company professionally. That's the easiest way to describe the program. I'm the instructor for the sales and marketing module, which is week 6, or module 6, I should say. And I meet tons of people on the program. And I met a gentleman, his name is Tom O'Brien. He owns a wholesaler. He's a wholesaler of ingredients. Think flour, think oil, think butter, think whatever you need to make food, he sells. His company is already multiple $1 million, company. It's not a small business anymore. He has, I'm going to say probably about 35, 40 employees now. And he came to me desperate. Like, I don't know how to grow the company. I have a website, but, I don't know what to do. And 2 years ago, completely out of friendship, he was a good guy. I said, look, I'm going to help you out. We sat down in a room and I help him define his ICP, really understand buyer persona. He understands strategy and how marketing can help. And what's really rewarding is that Tom, if you tell him jump, he jumps. So I told him, here's the recipe for success. This is what you're going to do on your website, PPC advertising, outbound calling. I mean, I gave him the strategies, right? Because he was telling me what he wanted to accomplish. And in 2 years, his website now is the number 2 in the category in terms of organic traffic. Um,
Fantastic.
he has grown his business. Um, Let me do a quick math, probably 400% since we met. And when I decided to go out and do this, as a consultant, he called me immediately and he said, now I can pay for your services because I never charged him. And he said, well, I'll take I needed to charge you now. And he was like, no, I want to pay you because you have driven so much impact on my business that, now we just want to do this, like, really, let's go invest some more money. And now not only I am helping him with Global Resources Direct, that's his main business, We have just launched a brand new brand of fruit water drinks on Amazon called Raya Fruit Water. We're launching it on TikTok. And we have launched a website where people can get group hotel bookings called Hotel Rates Direct. Completely unrelated business. He owns them all. And I
Yeah.
am the quote unquote the marketing department. I'm the one
Right.
man marketing department that runs all of his marketing. So that's not uncommon. That's really the
Yeah.
most common story that I can tell you. And my conversations with him are absolutely hilarious because he's always, talking to me like, you know, as a friend, as somebody that he trusts. There isn't, he doesn't question a lot. He's always looking for the numbers. We're always very open about metrics, but if I come with some not so great news, he's okay with that. If I come with amazing news, he's obviously excited about that. But it's always very honest. It's always very open. And I wish I always tell Tom, I wish every business owner is like you because you have the right attitude, you don't meddle, you trust, and we have achieved so much together because of that, right? So definitely very rewarding working with people like him.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So that's a great example of the question I'm going to ask you. But can you think of one key moment when you knew that, okay, I did the right thing? This is absolutely what I was meant to be doing, not sitting in a room trying to convince a bunch of executives to execute a program.
I will tell you, it's results that really I think everybody suffers, and I do too. Everybody suffers from some sort of a form of imposter syndrome, right? And I do it just like everybody else, even though I've been an award-winning marketer my entire career. People come to me being a micro marketer professor and all of that. I suffer from imposter syndrome as much as the next person. And when I took over a lot of the stuff that I was working with Global Resources Direct, and we saw from 2024 when we started like officially working until today, and the strategies that we had been working on since 2022 had generated year over year growth compounding from 150%, 200%. So he's basically 4xing, 5xing his business, not from a small number. I think the absolute numbers are important. That made me feel really, really grateful and excited about what's next. But one other thing happened that really caught me off guard. And another client of mine, his name is JJ, and he owns a company called Primor Foods. He sells frozen fruit purees online. He does extremely well, also multi-million dollar business. JJ came to me. He's like, "You are an essential component of my business." And he said that with like extreme clarity. Is that, look, I hired you. Right now, I cannot run this business without your support. And I don't think I've ever had a leader, come to me and say that about me as an employee, right? That I was essential to
Yeah,
their business, that they were super excited. They were always, get a good review, get bonus, get, financial rewards and stuff. But that comment is so important to hear, right? I'm human too. So
absolutely. Yeah.
seeing the numbers, happen, and obviously the relationship I've developed with Tom, and seeing JJ straight up say, "Look, you're an essential part of the business. I need you to run this place." That really was the moment I said, "You know what? We're doing something right. Like I just need to continue investing time and resources to get this thing off the ground. But we're doing really fantastic work.
Yeah, that affirmation, like you said, is so important. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's like, I mean, I think people have forgotten who are caught in an environment where they are not being fulfilled. They have forgotten how much that human element makes a difference in regard to how you enjoy and what you enjoy and how you think about the role that you're in. And I'm going to use that as a springboard to say, for others that are out there that may be struggling with that, because it's not an easy decision to make. I made it, you made it. I mean, it's not an easy decision to make. I'm going to step away from the known commodity and go into something brand new. So what advice would you give to someone who is kind of at a pivot point themselves as to what to think about in terms of the getting the courage and the motivation and the wherewithal to kind of make that step.
There are two approaches to this. One is to rip the band-aid off and just jump in the deep end without like close your eyes and just go for it.
Jump and the net
I
will appear, right?
I took a little bit of a different approach. So I'll tell you what I did. Um, and I'll give you a little more detail. I had accepted a role with a startup last year to be their CMO. Won't mention any names, but 3 months in my tenure, I had rebuilt all of the product marketing, was really focusing on getting the foundation of the company really well set for the future. And got caught up with a founder that was really impatient. But not only was he impatient, unfortunately, his products weren't ready for showtime. And upon my persistence of saying, look, stuff's not ready, don't spend money to market something that you cannot sell. Sell what's on the truck, right? Let's focus on that. And let's build a foundation to sell what's going to come in the future. But I think founders' delusion played a little bit of a role. Say everything is ready, let's sell it, whatever. We didn't see eye to eye. Long story short, we didn't see eye to eye. And then one day I was just, a very honest conversation. And I said, look, you brought me in to do X, Y, Z, and I don't think you need me. I don't think you want to do all these things that we've discussed when I was interviewing for the role. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to hire somebody that will do what you were looking for. And, next 2 weeks are going to be my last 2 weeks. So I quit my job on Valentine's Day. And that was my like official get out of jail, day I'm supposed to quit. I no longer have a job, Valentine's Day. And I was preparing for that day by one, teaching. So the teaching job has given me access to a strong stream of contacts that have built a really strong network where I have acquired over 15 accounts off of the networking opportunities that the teaching job has afforded me. So if you were planning on a hard pivot, think of ways that you can network yourself into opportunities and maybe acquire one or two or three part-time accounts that will give you the confidence to move on to a full-time role. So I was getting prepared knowing that this day might come. And when I made a decision to quit, I didn't jump on the deep end. That it wasn't a deep, it was a shallow end. I knew that I had a pipeline of networking, of networked opportunities that could become accounts. So my luck was day one, I was revenue positive, and I had 5 accounts that were working with me. Of course, not fully compensating for the revenue lost for my job, but still, I was never, starting from scratch. Let's just say it that way. So I really focused on the actual transition and how I could build opportunities off of my network. So networking really important to build that up. The second thing I tell people is you have to really look into yourself and decide what the value proposition is going to be. Because a lot of people are going to be doing similar things that you want to do, right? Let's pretend you are a product marketer. There's a ton of product marketing people out there. What do you deliver? What value do you deliver that nobody else can deliver? In my case, I am an honest, a patient, and a deeply strategic marketer. So when I speak to people, I always talk about my ability to listen, to patiently listen. That's a skill. and
Yep.
to translate what they want to build into marketing investments. The frustration most small and mid-sized business owners they have is every time they speak to a marketer, they are spoken to. They're never heard. And
Yeah.
making that switch and approaching it that way has given me the ability to have a very unique value proposition. So developing that is really important. And then I think that the third piece of advice that I would give you is sometimes you are forced into a change. A layoff happened, your position was eliminated, something got, disrupted your job situation. It's really important to move fast. Don't overthink it. A lot of people waste 3, 4, 5, 6 months overthinking. Should I do it? Should I not do it? Should I do it? Should I not? Don't do it. Just don't overthink it. If you think that your employment situation is not going to improve immediately, it's really critical that you make a decision, that you move forward confidently, and that you build a network, build the relationships that will allow you just set foot on an opportunity that's going to grow in the future. So those are the three things that I would recommend people think about as they're thinking about these change.
Yeah, I think those are spot on. That's such good advice. So one last question. This is one I always like to close out these segments with. If your past self in your old role saw your new self now, what would they say? What would they have to say about it?
You took too long. What happened?
What
You
took
should have
you
done it
so long?
sooner. Absolutely. And by the way, I'm not opposed, I'm not opposed. I may be looking into a full-time role. People contact me all the time for full-time
Yeah,
roles. And I would be looking, I have nothing against if it's the right fit, the right leadership, if it's the right opportunity. I have nothing against a full-time role. I think it's important to discriminate, right? Going on your own, building a business, being independent is I don't think it's either or. I think it's what's best for you and do things align with your values and how you want to work, right? That's really, really
yeah,
important. However, uh, and I can speak from experience, I was never confident enough and I always felt attached to the gold chain of working for these large companies with fairly high compensation. I've been very lucky to be properly compensated for my work. You feel kind of attached to a gold chain and you don't want to let go. So there's a level
yeah.
of comfort and security that comes attached with this type of employment that you need to be able to move away from and feel a little uncomfortable doing because it's not a comfortable position to be in immediately. But if my old self would look at my new self, I'm a much happier person, without a doubt. Um, I am a more fulfilled individual, without a doubt. But again, it's really not about whether I work for a company, I work for myself. It's about standing for principles and doing things that I want to work on. And this is really important to me, moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's a great place to end, and I couldn't agree more. There are some things in terms of what you get out of a place in terms of value and reward that are far different than money, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If you are sacrificing those, there's no amount of money you can make that's going to make it worth it. So
Agree
I
with you.
I
Agree with you 1,000%. Agree with you a
yeah.
thousand percent. That's for sure.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. And for those of you who are watching, if you are standing at the crossroads of your journey, I hope that Marcio's comments have been inspiring to you that you don't have to throw everything away and you don't have to forego what your past experience has been and forego your strengths and your talents. Sometimes it's just redirecting those in a different format so that you can get more joy out of life and determine and use those as your springboard to your next level me. Until the next time, keep going, keep growing. And if you're ready to make your next move, let me know. I'd love to help you out. See you on the bold path.